A mother of six lies motionless in a hospital bed, her organs failing, doctors scrambling, but no one can explain why. The truth? Her husband, a respected dentist, was slipping poison into her morning shakes, all while texting his mistress from the waiting room. Angela Craig never stood a chance. By the time she reached the emergency room, her body had already begun to shut down. The vibrant, smiling 43-year-old mother of six, who just days earlier was planning a family outing, was now clinging to life with no known diagnosis and a room full of doctors baffled by what they saw. She had no prior health issues, no history of illness, and no clue that the man holding her hand, her husband of 23 years, was the one slowly killing her. Angela Craig was a pillar in her community of Aurora, Colorado. She was deeply involved in her church, the kind of woman who baked for fundraisers, volunteered in her children's classrooms, and hosted Bible study groups in her home. Friends described her as the ultimate mum. She didn't just love her kids, she lived for them. Angela met James Tolliver Craig in college. Back then he was charming, driven, the kind of guy who made you feel like the only person in the room. He swept her off her feet, and by the time they graduated, Angela believed she had found the man she would grow old with. She was right, just not in the way she hoped. After college, James went on to dental school, and Angela supported him every step of the way. She managed the house, raised their kids, and built a life around his career. When he opened his dental practice in Aurora, Angela was his biggest cheerleader. They had 6 children together. That's not a small number. Angela did everything for them: carpools, lunches, school events, holiday traditions. Each child felt individually loved by their mum. She made every birthday special. She left notes in their lunchboxes. She made their house feel like a home. But behind the warm family photos and smiling social media posts, cracks had started to form. Friends say that Angela and James had gone through rough patches, but Angela believed in keeping her family together. She believed in forgiveness, in second chances, and she believed in her husband, even when she shouldn't have. In early March 2023, Angela started getting sick. At first, it was just fatigue, then nausea, headaches, dizziness. She chalked it up to stress. Maybe she had the flu, but it didn't go away. In fact, it got worse. By March 6th, she was admitted to the hospital for the first time. Doctors ran test after test but couldn't figure out what was wrong. Her symptoms didn't fit any diagnosis. She was released, but she still didn't feel right. Then she was back in the ER, then again, and again. Each time, Angela told the doctors the same thing. She had been drinking protein shakes in the mornings. That was the only thing she could think of that was different. No one connected the dots. After all, why would they suspect anything sinister? Why would anyone suspect James? He was calm, supportive, concerned. He played the perfect role of the worried husband. He stayed by Angela's bedside, holding her hand. He prayed with the nurses. He brought flowers to the hospital room. But the truth is, he was already planning her funeral. Angela Craig's life was stolen from her by the very person she trusted most. And the horrifying reality? This wasn't a sudden act of rage. This was methodical, cold, calculated. He researched poisons on his office computer. He ordered potassium cyanide online. He used his dental practice's email address. And while Angela's organs were shutting down, he was texting his mistress, making plans for a future that no longer included his wife. Angela never saw it coming. And the worst part? She died believing her husband was by her side. But what exactly happened inside that home? And how did a respected dentist manage to poison his wife without anyone noticing? The answers lie in a chilling trail of emails, hospital visits, and a deadly protein shake. Angela Craig's death wasn't spontaneous. It was a process, a slow, excruciating descent into an invisible nightmare, one sip at a time. And behind it all was her husband, Dr. James Craig, a man who took the sacred oath to heal and used it to kill. It started small. In early March 2023, Angela began complaining of headaches. She felt dizzy, nauseous, weak. But she trusted James. He was a dentist after all. He knew medicine. He reassured her it was just stress, maybe a bug going around. He even encouraged her to keep drinking her morning protein shakes, the same ones she drank every day, the same ones he prepared. At the time, Angela had no reason to suspect the person she shared a bed with was conducting a lethal experiment on her body. But James knew exactly what he was doing. While Angela was struggling to keep her balance and speak in full sentences, James was making online orders. And these weren't innocent Amazon purchases. He used his work computer at Summerbrook Dental Group in Aurora to search things like, how many grams of pure potassium cyanide will kill a human? Is arsenic traceable in autopsy? Top undetectable poisons. Then, using his professional email address, he contacted a chemical supplier and placed an order for potassium cyanide, a highly lethal substance often used in industrial manufacturing and restricted for general public use. He claimed it was for a surgery-related need at his practice. The order was delivered in early March, and that's when Angela's symptoms escalated. By March 6th, Angela was admitted to the hospital for the first time. Her symptoms were confusing: severe headaches, dizziness, shortness of breath. Doctors couldn't find a unifying diagnosis. Her tests came back clean. She was released, only to return days later in worse condition. Meanwhile, James was hiding something far more sinister than doctors could imagine. Not only had he purchased cyanide, but prosecutors later discovered that he bought a second vial after Angela survived the first dose. This wasn't a panic-induced crime. This was deliberate, measured, planned. Angela was fighting for her life, and her husband was actively increasing the dosage behind her back. The most disturbing detail? James didn't stop living his life during all of this. In fact, he was texting his mistress while sitting in the hospital waiting room. The messages revealed flirtation, plans for future getaways, and intimate conversations, sent while his wife was unconscious just down the hall. This wasn't just about a man cheating. This was a man willing to erase his wife from existence just to start over. And all the while, he played the part of the grieving husband. Angela returned home after multiple ER visits, but by March 15th, she collapsed again, this time unresponsive. She was placed on life support, her brain activity fading. And James? He was already back online, searching things like, can cyanide poisoning be detected in autopsy? How long does it take for cyanide to leave the bloodstream? Angela was dying, and her husband wasn't crying. He was covering his tracks. Angela Craig was pronounced dead on March 18, 2023. She was just 43. Doctors still had no clear explanation until someone on the medical team made a chilling observation. Angela's symptoms were consistent with cyanide poisoning. That tip made its way to the Aurora Police Department. And from there, the investigation cracked open like a fractured skull. Detectives searched James Craig's devices. They found encrypted emails, deleted tabs, and a suspicious delivery record of potassium cyanide addressed to his dental practice. More shocking still, they discovered that James had a second shipment of another poison, oleandrin, on the way. Angela didn't even know what was happening to her. But James had already been planning a backup method if cyanide failed. This was no crime of passion. This was the premeditated murder of a woman who loved him and believed him until her final breath. Angela trusted James to protect her. He used that trust to feed her poison. And the question now wasn't if he did it, but how much longer could he have kept this up if no one had noticed? With Angela dead and suspicions growing, investigators launched a full-scale probe into the life of Dr. James Craig. What they found in his computer, his office, and his emails would turn this tragedy into a national scandal. The death of Angela Craig could have been ruled a medical mystery. She didn't have a history of illness. She wasn't on dangerous medications. No one in her family suspected foul play, except for one anonymous hospital employee. It only took one voice to raise the alarm, and that single suspicion would trigger a full-scale investigation that peeled back the layers of Dr. James Craig's carefully constructed life, revealing a chilling double life behind the charming smile. When Angela died on March 18, 2023, The hospital's medical team noted that her symptoms were highly unusual. They couldn't explain the rapid organ failure or the sudden steep decline. One doctor wrote in her chart, "Toxic exposure cannot be ruled out." Then another raised the possibility of cyanide poisoning. It was a red flag, and it set off a chain reaction. The Aurora Police Department was notified. Within hours, a search warrant was issued for James Craig's dental office, personal computer, and phones. No one expected what they'd find next. The first major clue came from his work computer. Investigators quickly discovered that James had been conducting detailed internet searches for how to make poison undetectable in autopsy, where to buy cyanide, top 5 poisons that leave no trace, can arsenic cause stomach pain? These searches weren't months old, they were recent, very recent, and worse, he had conducted them during office hours while treating dental patients. The second clue was even more damning, a shipping confirmation from a chemical supplier. The order, potassium cyanide, the recipient, Dr. James T. Craig, DDS. Investigators visited the supplier and learned that James had submitted a request for potassium cyanide using his dental practice's professional email and claimed it was needed for surgical purposes. The supplier, assuming it was for dental use, shipped the product, unknowing that it would be used to commit murder. The timeline was matching up. March 6th, first hospitalization. March 8th, first cyanide order delivered. March 15th, Angela becomes unresponsive. March 18th, Angela dies. The pattern was undeniable, but what clinched the motive? James's affair. During the search, investigators seized James's phone and uncovered hundreds of text messages with a woman he had met during a conference. The messages weren't subtle. They discussed their physical relationship, romantic future, and plans for her to come visit Colorado. The two even exchanged flirtatious emails while Angela was actively hospitalized. One text from the mistress read, "Can't wait to finally start our life together." James had replied, "Soon, very soon." To law enforcement, that exchange was everything. Angela was being removed, one sip at a time, and someone else was waiting to take her place. James's colleagues at the dental office were horrified. Some reported seeing him in a giddy mood around the time Angela was in the hospital. Others recalled him being oddly absent-minded during patient appointments. One employee mentioned seeing a strange package delivered around March 9th. James took it straight into his private office and locked the door. That package was later confirmed to contain cyanide. More forensic analysis revealed that after Angela's first hospitalization, James didn't stop. He simply doubled down. He placed a second order, this time for oleandrin, a lethal extract from the oleander plant. He also searched for how to poison someone without them knowing, symptoms of cyanide poisoning, how to stage a heart attack. Angela wasn't just being poisoned. She was being experimented on. Perhaps the most heartbreaking discovery came from the Craig household kitchen. Inside the family refrigerator, investigators found containers of Angela's protein shakes. One of them had already been consumed. 2 others were partially full. Lab tests revealed traces of cyanide. James had been slipping it into her breakfast. Each shake carefully prepared. Each one a step closer to her death. Police also uncovered evidence that James had made multiple backups of encrypted browsers on his phone, apps like TOR and ProtonMail, which he used to order chemicals and delete communications that might incriminate him. But the forensic team reconstructed his deleted messages, and what they found was horrifying. One email read, "Need order expedited. Patient is deteriorating. Urgent need." He was referring to Angela, calling her a patient, hiding behind the language of medicine to commit murder. By March 19th, just 1 day after Angela's death, police had enough evidence to move forward. James Craig was arrested outside his dental office. He didn't resist. He didn't ask why. He simply said, "Is this about my wife?" Yes, it was, and the story was about to go public. As news of James Craig's arrest exploded across the country, a community that once trusted him now demanded justice, and what unfolded in the courtroom would leave the nation in stunned silence. As the case made its way to court, the Aurora Police Department released a statement. This is one of the most calculated and heartless crimes we've investigated. Angela Craig was a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a victim of unimaginable betrayal. Her family echoed that pain. In a statement read to the press, Angela's sister said, "She loved James with her whole heart. She believed in her marriage, and he used that love to kill her. We want justice, not just for Angela, but for her children." James Craig was denied bail. He remained in custody at the Arapahoe County Jail while prosecutors prepared for trial. Inside, he was placed on suicide watch. Jail officials reported that he appeared numb, disconnected, and uncooperative. According to a former cellmate, James didn't talk much. When asked why he did it, he only said, "Sometimes life gets complicated." But this wasn't complicated, this was evil. In court, prosecutors outlined a case that shocked even seasoned legal professionals. District Attorney John Kellner addressed the judge. "The evidence is overwhelming. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was a months-long plan to kill a woman who trusted him so he could run off with his girlfriend and start a new life. We will seek the maximum sentence." Meanwhile, James's defense attorneys argued that the case was circumstantial and that the cause of death had not been definitively proven. But behind the scenes, even they knew the weight of the evidence. One former colleague close to the defense team described the situation as a landslide. "There's no saving him from this. He's going away forever." As James sat in a jail cell awaiting trial, Angela's family planned her funeral. It was held just days after his arrest. Hundreds attended. The church was filled with photos of Angela with her children, family vacations, Sunday dinners, birthday parties. People wore purple, her favorite color. A slideshow played in the background as one of her sons stepped to the microphone. "My mum didn't deserve this. She loved everyone. She loved him. And he took her from us. But we'll never forget her. And we'll never stop fighting for justice." Angela's parents didn't speak publicly. They were too devastated to even appear on camera. But their silence spoke volumes. And so James Craig sat behind bars, waiting. He had lost his career, lost his children, lost the illusion of his double life. And now, he was about to face a courtroom that would hear everything. As the trial begins, Angela's family prepares for the unthinkable, listening to the details of her murder in open court. But no one could predict just how fast the jury would reach its decision or what James Craig's final sentence would be. The courtroom was silent as James Craig entered in an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled. It had been over 2 years since Angela Craig collapsed in her Colorado home. Over 2 years since her children lost their mother. And now, in the summer of 2025, all eyes were on the trial that would determine whether James Craig would ever walk free again, or spend the rest of his life in a cell. No cameras were allowed inside, but what unfolded over the next week would send shockwaves through the community and bring closure to a family still haunted by betrayal. Opening statements were brutal. The prosecution wasted no time. They called James a predator in a white coat, a man who used his medical knowledge to orchestrate the cold, calculated murder of his wife. A man who wore the mask of a family man but underneath was hollow and dangerous. They laid out the timeline in chilling detail. James researched poisons months before Angela fell ill. He used his dental practice to obtain cyanide under false pretenses. He poisoned her shakes, then pretended to care while texting his mistress from the hospital. He even placed a second poison order after the first didn't kill her fast enough. The prosecutors held nothing back. On July 29, 2025, James Craig was sentenced to life in prison without the chance to ever walk free again. He said nothing as the verdict was read. He didn't cry. He didn't look at his children. He simply stared ahead as if none of it was real. But it was. This time, there was no mask to hide behind. Angela's family left the courtroom in tears, but not despair. They had waited more than 2 years for justice, and they finally got it. But that doesn't mean they got peace. Her 6 children now live without their mother. Birthdays, graduations, first dates, wedding days, all will come and go without her there. Her sister, in a press statement, said, "We will never understand how someone could do this to a woman so full of love. Angela deserved so much more, but we hope her story reminds others evil can wear a smile." And now the Craig children are being raised by family, doing their best to move forward piece by piece in the shadow of a tragedy they'll never fully outrun. But they are surviving, and they carry their mother's memory in everything they do. Angela Craig believed in family. She believed in love. And she believed in the man who stood beside her every morning for 23 years. She never knew that each shake he made, each smile he gave, each prayer he said, was part of a plan to take her away. This wasn't just murder. This was a betrayal so intimate, so devastating, it tore apart everything she built. And yet, in the end, Angela's story did not disappear. It was heard, it was believed, and it was honored in court. If this story moved you, please subscribe to the channel. Share Angela's story because it might just protect someone else. And in the comments, we want to hear from you. How do we protect the people we love when the danger comes from inside the home? Stay safe, stay aware. And as always, thank you for watching.